Today we're going to trace the incredible story of how India built one of the world's most powerful legal shields for the environment. And it's this amazing journey that actually starts thousands of miles away from Delhi, but it ends with a right that belongs to every single one of us. So, it really all boils down to this one big question. I mean, think about it. Can a single global meeting, just one conference, really change a nation's entire constitution? Could it set off a chain reaction so powerful that it rewrites a country's most sacred legal document? Well, as we're about to find out when it comes to India, the answer is a huge, resounding yes. Okay, so our story kicks off way back in the early 1970s. You gotta remember, this was a time when the world was really just starting to wake up to the whole environmental crisis. The idea that, hey, maybe protecting the planet is everyone's job, that was a pretty new concept, and it desperately needed a global stage. Now, take a look at this timeline here. You see these major milestones, right? The Brundtland Report in '87, that's where we get the term sustainable development. And then the Rio Earth Summit in '92 gave us a blueprint for the future. But the real starting point, the one that lit the fuse for everything, was that 1972 Stockholm Conference. People call it the Magna Carta of environmental law for a reason. It was literally the first time the world got together and said, hey, a healthy environment isn't just a local issue, it's a global one. And this is where that global spark directly connects to India. And it's a pretty wild fact. Just think about it for a second. Of all the world leaders, only one, that's right, one, foreign head of state showed up. And who was it? India's Prime Minister, Indira Gandhi. Her being there was a massive signal. It told the world that India was taking this new global movement very, very seriously. And believe me, it set the stage for some huge changes back home. Right, so that commitment, it wasn't just for show. Not at all. Those big ideas from Stockholm, they were brought back to India, and they led to something that had never been done before. They literally wove environmental protection right into the very fabric of the nation's constitution. And the magic number here is 42. Yep. In 1976, the 42nd Amendment to the Constitution gets passed, and this is a game changer. Why? Because before this moment, the Constitution was basically silent on the environment. But after this amendment, it had a voice, and it was a really, really powerful one. So how'd they do it? Well, the amendment brought in this trinity of provisions, like a three-pronged approach. First up, Article 48A. This made it the state's job to protect the environment. Then Article 51AG turned around and made it every single citizen's duty. And finally, and this is the really clever part, the courts took an existing article, Article 21, and turned it into the ultimate environmental shield. And this part is just brilliant. It really shows you the power of legal interpretation. So the courts looked at Article 21, the fundamental right to life, and they asked a really simple but profound question. What good is a right to life if you don't have a clean, healthy environment to live in? It's kind of obvious when you think about it, right? And their answer was revolutionary. They said the right to life has to include the right to a wholesome environment. And that one single idea, it became the absolute cornerstone of Indian environmental law. Okay, so now the Constitution has these new green teeth, right? And the Indian judiciary completely stepped up to the plate. They became what's often called a sentinel on the qui-vive, which is a fancy way of saying they became a vigilant guardian, always on high alert, ready to protect the environment. So how did they actually do this? Well, through this incredible legal tool called public interest litigation, or PIL for short. This was a total game changer. See, the courts basically relaxed the old stiff rule that said you could only file a lawsuit if you were personally harmed. But now, any public-spirited citizen, any activist, think of the legendary green lawyer MC Mehta, could walk into court and fight on behalf of the environment itself. The courthouse doors were just thrown wide open. And the courts didn't stop there. They started forging powerful new legal weapons. So after the tragic oleum gas leak in 1987, the Supreme Court came up with something called the Doctrine of Absolute Liability. And the message here was crystal clear. If you're an industry dealing with hazardous stuff, you are 100% responsible for any harm you cause. No excuses, no exceptions, period. And this quote, this one just says it all. It's from a landmark case about pollution in the Ganga River, and it perfectly sums up the court's thinking. They said life, health, and ecology have greater importance than unemployment and loss of revenue. Wow. I mean, think about that. When forced to choose between money and the environment, the court flat out said life and ecology come first. That was a radical, radical stance to take.
And you can see this thinking in action, in the real world, with cases like the Taj trapezium case. So here was the problem. Polluting factories nearby were causing acid rain, and it was literally eating away at the Taj Mahal. The court's solution? They didn't just slap them with a fine. No way. They ordered these massive industries to either switch to clean natural gas or pack up and relocate entirely. It just goes to show you how hands-on and assertive the courts had become.
All right, so if you take all these court cases, all these landmark judgments, and you boil them down, you're left with two core principles. These are the big ideas that now define environmental law in India. And they're actually pretty simple to grasp, but they are incredibly powerful in the real world. Okay, first up is something called the public trust doctrine. Now, what this means is that our natural resources, rivers, forests, even the air we breathe, they don't actually belong to the government to do whatever they want with. Instead, the state is just a trustee. Think of it like a caretaker. They're supposed to manage these resources for all of us, the public, because we are the real owners. It's a huge shift in thinking from ownership to stewardship.
And the second big one is the polluter pays principle. This one's pretty straightforward. If you make a mess, you have to clean it up. You break it, you buy it. But the courts were really smart about how they defined buying it. It doesn't just mean paying money to people who are harmed. Nope. It means you have to pay the full cost of restoring the environment back to how it was before you messed it up.
So what's the bottom line here? What does all this, the constitutional changes, the bold court cases, these powerful principles, what does it all add up to? Well, it all comes together to forge one fundamental, legally enforceable right for every single person listening. And this little table right here is the perfect summary. It pulls everything together beautifully. Your right to a clean environment, that's baked into your right to life under Article 21. Those risky industries, they face absolute liability. The government's role? They're a trustee, not an owner, because of the public trust doctrine. And finally, if someone pollutes, they've got to pay to restore things. These are the four pillars that hold up this powerful legal shield. And that brings us to our final thought. It's pretty amazing, isn't it? This whole journey, starting from just one conference in Stockholm, created this incredible legal framework in India. And for a long time, the courts were its fiercest guardians. But now that these powerful tools exist, the torch is kind of being passed to us. The framework is there, but it's not going to work on its own. It needs vigilant citizens, people like you and me, to hold power accountable and to make sure the environment is actually protected for the next generation. So the question is, who are the next guardians going to be? Well, they could be you.